Give ear, O people, to my teaching. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings from old, things that we have heard and known that our fathers and mothers have taught us. We will not hide them from their children, but tell them to the coming generation the glorious deeds of the Lord in his might and the wonders which he has wrought. He established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers to teach to their children, that the next generation might know them, the children yet unborn, and arise and tell them to their children, so that they should not set their hope outside of the Lord, and not forget the words of God, but keep his commandments, and that they should not be like their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation whose heart was not steadfast, whose spirit was not faithful to God. The words of the psalmist for the people of God. How many of you like going on trips on vacation? Yeah, we all like to go someplace new, don't we? I can remember a few short years ago going out to New Mexico to visit my son. He's still out there, teaches on the Navajo Indian Reservation. And I flew out, he picked me up, we went to his place, we had a nice day the next day together, and then the second day we decided to have a road trip, just he and I, something we'd never done before. And I said, let's go to Tombstone, Arizona. Now he's up by Gallup, New Mexico. Let's go to Tombstone. He said, okay. We threw things in the car, we looked at the map, we took off, and we were just a-talking. And we knew what road we're supposed to be on. And as we're traveling hour after hour, we would look at the road sign and we would see that we were on the right road. What we didn't see was we were going in the wrong direction. That happens. There's a sermon in itself right there, isn't there? How often we can be on the right road in life, but going in the wrong direction. I think that happens to us. The psalmist is telling us, you have been taught by your fathers and your mothers what the Lord requires, the goodness of the Lord, what the Lord has done for your people. Be sure to teach your own children the ways of the Lord. Don't forget them. Instruct them. Raise them up in the ways of the Lord. That's what we want to do, but there's a lot of challenges to that, isn't there? Especially in today's society, when so many things are competing for the attention of young people. I was talking to one of my doctors this week, and he said, you know, Jerry, back when you were a kid, less than 5% of young people, ages 12 and under, less than 5% were obese. Now it's almost 30%. And I asked him, what do we blame that on? I said, is it sitting in front of computers? And he, all day long, he kind of shook his head. And I said, is it also how we don't seem to sit down and have family meals together and cook them together? And it's a lot of fast food and takeout. And he shook his head, yes. He said, but even worse than that, he says, it's happening because the parents aren't nurturing their children the way they ought. We can't expect the schools to do it. We can't expect the doctors to do it. It has to start with the parents. It's the same way in the Christian faith, isn't it? I think it is. I know, I talk with people quite often, and they'll be talking about somebody in their neighborhood or some event taking place in the country, and something that's bad that's happening, and they'll say something like, well, you know, those people just don't have any values. You ever heard that said? They just don't have any values. Well, I beg to differ. Everybody has a set of values. It's just that some of those values really have an odor to them, don't they? We all have values. We will give ourselves to what we value in life. And sometimes what we value is very counterproductive to what God has demanded of us and what God wants of us. How many parents I talk to that just say, I don't understand my kids. And what you want to say is, start trying. Spend time. Do things with them. There are none of us who are perfect parents. I don't think any of us sitting here today who are parents took a class in how to be a parent before we decided to have children. If you did, well, stand up and brag. Nobody here is there. We learn along the way. But if we're wise, we'll glean the good things that we've learned from our parents. We'll glean what the history of the church has to teach us about what's important in life if we're wise. If we're wise. Yeah. You know where most kids develop their values? From their parents. What's important to their parents tends to become important to the children. Makes sense, doesn't it? How many of us reflect the values of our parents? Things we learned when we were growing up. How many of us find it hard to let go of certain things that we learned from our parents? Even when it's pointed out to us that it wasn't such a good thing to learn. Yeah, that happens too. Think of the effect that you have had on your children, your grandchildren. Reflect on it. Are you proud of it? Did you do or are you doing what the Lord would favor? Are you instructing them